This is a King Spider Orchid, Caladenia tentaculata. It's quite an amazing, intricate flower with an amazing story behind it. This particular one was planted on our Wildflower Walk in 2010 by Leanne. It is now overseas, and we have a bud over here, and then once the bud opens, it becomes this amazing flower here. The flower is actually mimicking a female wasp. The male wasp prowls around looking for a female. The female is hairy and wingless, and when she's ready, she climbs up some vegetation and releases her perfume, her pheromones. And the male, being quite a gentleman, comes along and he picks her up. She doesn't have wings. He picks her up and he takes her from flower to flower, giving her, wining and dining her, so to speak. However, the flower, these sepals, these long spidery sepals, one here and one here and one there, it's not quite positioned yet, they will spread out, and the end of those smells like the female. So the male comes along, and the thing that's hairiest and dark and in this wobbly leaf, it tends to wobble quite a bit. This one's still positioning itself. But this central part here looks like the female. The male comes along and he tries to pick up the female, picks up this hairy, this dark patch at the back there with the hairy bit at the front. He tries to pick her up to take her from flower to flower, but the flower tips him back and he gets pollen stuck on his back from the column. I don't know if that's easier to see it. This column, that's what makes an orchid an orchid. It has these male and female parts together in a column. So a wasp realises that this is not his lady love, so he flies off, but he's still interested. And if he finds another flower nearby, such as this one, he then tries again, and this time when he gets tipped back by the flower, if it isn't in fact his lady love, when it gets tipped back, he gets the pollen taken off and pollination occurs, and at the same time he gets more taken on. So the more flowers he visits, the more he can do it. It sounds very complicated, but it means that that the pollen is all going towards pollination. It's not like most flowers will provide the bees with spare pollen. And it seems to work very well. The first year we had these planted here, we had, it only took a week or so. These are very long-lived flowers. They'll live for 5 to 6 weeks if they don't get pollinated. But once they do get pollinated, they collapse down into a seed pod and release the tiny little seed. Every different spider orchid is actually pollinated by a different species of male wasp. Quite amazing, really. But within a week of the first lot of flowers that we had on this slope, we actually had pollination. We've probably had at least 10 to 12 different seed pods since then. These plants are very much ecosystem plants. Not only do they need the wasp, and they have a symbiotic relationship with fungus in the soil. To actually germinate, they must be infected by the fungus, which the orchid seeds are the tiniest seeds in the world, and they don't have very much food, so the fungus infects the seed and actually feeds the seed because it's in the process of decomposing a lot of the plant matter, so it needs more plant matter around it. The orchids actually need the right ecosystem around them to support the wasps as well. So quite involved, but a very lovely little plant. And that's our beautiful King Spider Orchid.